Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back. Today's Daf Hayomi is Menachos Memhei. We begin at the Mishnah, which is on Mem Daled Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. Suppose there's a day in the Beis Hamikdash, a Yom Tov, right, where there are many karbanos tzibur, public karbanos that are going to be offered. You have parim, cows, elam, rams, kvasim, sheep. Suppose there is a required number of karbanos, but they don't have access to so many. What do? Do we just skip the whole thing, or do we say at least bring part? Says the Mishnah, ha-parim, va-elam, va-kvasim, elam ma'akvin zeh. They don't hold each other back. So if you have just part, you move along and you do what you could. Here comes Rav Shimon with an interesting insight. He says, Rav Shimon Omer, suppose they have enough money for many cows, but they don't have enough to buy the cows and the nasachim, the accompaniments, the mincha. What should we do? He says, Yavi par echad nasachav. Better bring one par complete with its accompaniment, rather than bringing so many without accompaniment. So do one 100%, rather than going to many and doing only a part carbon, as opposed to bringing them all without the required beloy nesach. Now, what day are we talking about? Parim, elam, and kvasim. Hani parim ukvasim dehecha. Which karbanos are we talking about? Are we speaking on the Chag, which is the term typically used to refer to Sukkos? Are you saying that if you're missing, you can still proceed? No, you can't. Kimishpat, it says. Kimishpatam. Ksibu. Torah employs very exacting language. Kimishpat. As is. You can't. No leeway. So you can't say that we're talking about Sukkos, because the required karbanos are absolute. Elo, so it must be that either we're speaking the Rosh Chodesh, on Rosh Chodesh, Ba'atzeres, and or on Shavuos, the Chumash HaPekudim. Now, in general, there are 2 places in the Torah where we have karbanos discussed. We have in Teres Kehanim, that's in Chumash Vayikra. We have in Chumash HaPekudim, the Chumash of counting, which is another term for Chumash Bamidbar, which starts with the counting. So in Parashas Pinchas, you have many karbanos, which are musaf karbanos. They're the sort of the added karbanos that are brought on Yom Tovim. So we're speaking about those karbanos, the ones on Rosh Chodesh, on Shavuos, which are discussed in Sefer Bamidbar, in Bamidbar Chav Ches. So on Rosh Chodesh, it speaks about 2 parim, 1 ayil, and 7 kvasim. On Shavuos, you have 2 parim, 1 ayil, and again 7 kvasim. So perhaps over there, even if you're missing some, you can just proceed. Says the Gemara, hold it. Elim dehecha. Okay, so you covered the parim and the kvasim of Rosh Chodesh, Atzeres, of Chumash HaPekudim. Okay, so even though you're missing, but what about the elim? Mishnah says if you're missing some elim, you can also proceed. Dehecha, which ones are we talking about? Are we talking about the ones discussed in the Musafin, the ones discussed in Bamidbar? Idahanu, well, those discussed in Chumash Bamidbar, you don't have more than 1 ayil. The ayil who? Right? As we just mentioned, it's 1 ayil. Mishnah says elam. You have some of the many, you can still you only need 1. Apparently that's not what we're talking about. Okay, so one more option is that on Shavuos you bring another set of karbanos, which is discussed in Sefer Vayikra, which actually are not musafin. Those are with the bread. They come on account of the breads. There are 2 breads they bring on Shtei Alechem on Shavuos. Comes along with karbanos one par, 2 ayils, 2 rams, and 7 kvasim. Plus, that's oila, and then we have 2 more kvasim, which are actually shlomims that come with the bread itself. So, are we talking about that set of karbonis? Ida atzeres, the teres kehanim. Are we talking about the grouping of karbonis, which are discussed in Sefer Vayikra regarding shvois? You can't say that even if you're missing, it's okay, because havayik sibuhu. We have the lashon yiyu. Yiyu oil Hashem in that pasuk. Havaya, yiyu means absolute. You can't negotiate on the numbers. Okay, so sort of stuck. Says the Gemara, lo'olam atzeres, teres kehanim. True. When the Mishnah speaks about the ayils, right, the rams, we're talking shvois. We're talking about the ones that come on account of the breads, which are discussed in teres kehanim, that's in Vayikra. Right? So now we understand the plural, because there it's 2 elim. That's why the Mishnah uses the lashon elim. But the Mishnah does not mean that if you're missing one of the 2, you can proceed. No, because the number 2 is absolute. The Mishnah just means like this. Regarding these 2 groupings of karbonis, the ones in Vayikra, which come on account of the breads, the ones in Bamidbar, which are musafin, one does not hold back the other. One set does not hold back the other. The 2 elim of Vayikra don't hold back the ayil of the musaf. Lo elim da atzeres kehanim. The Mishnah means like this. Lo elim atzeres kehanim ma'akvi leil ayil d'chumash apkudim. So if you're missing the 2 elim of Vayikra, of the breads, it's not going to hold you back from bringing 1 ayil for musaf, and vice versa. Nor is the ayil of Bamidbar, the musaf, single ayil, going to hold you back. If you're missing it, you can still proceed. It's not going to be ma'akav lehu. Though 2 aylim, la'elim teres kehanim, which come on account of the breads. So again, we're talking about 2 types of ayils. The 2 which come on account of the bread, the single which comes as a musaf, they're separate, independent offerings, not linked to each other. So when the Mishnah spoke about parim, elim, and kvasim not being ma'akav each other, it's sort of 2 different types of issues. Regarding the parim and kvasim, we say these are the musafin, right? And if you're missing one of them, out of the many, it's not mi'akiv. Regarding the elim, we can't say so, because in that case, when you're supposed to bring 2, you have to bring 2. Rather, it just means that 2 sets of ayils are not going to hold each other back. Okay, so that's the conclusion of the Gemara. Parim, when it comes to the parim, we say dafilu adadig lemiakvi. So let's say the 2 parim that are supposed to be brought as a musaf, if you have just 1 or 2, it's okay. So they don't cancel each other, they don't hold each other back. But when it comes to the elim, each set on its own, each arrangement is mi'akiv. It's just that the 2 arrangements don't hold each other back, right? The elim, when it comes to the elim, you have to sort of switch the mode. The 2 ayils of the shtei alechem will not hold back the ayil of the musaf, and vice versa. But they themselves, let's say the 2 that are on account of the bread, hold each other back. You need both. 2 or nothing, right? Is that so? Meaning that the wording in the Mishnah, right? The parim and the kvasim has one meaning, and the elim have a different meaning. Yeah, says the Gemara, Tana mila ketani. In fact, the brayso, the Tana of the Mishnah reference different aspects of this halacha, each one with his own, unique application. Okay, now we proceed to some psukim in Sefer Yecheskel, which seem to be obscure and riddle-like, and we're going to elaborate on them and clarify their true meaning. So we have a pasuk, Uyem HaChodesh, which seems to speak about Rosh Chodesh, right? You bring par ben bakar, tamim, 1 par, b'shisha kvasim, and 6 kvasim instead of 7. It's only 6. V'ayel tamim with 1 ayel. Ask the Gemara, par ma'tam, what's the point of this pasuk? That you bring a par. Take a look at the Chumash. We know that in Rosh Chodesh you bring a par as an oilam. The answer is in Torah it speaks about 2. Parim too. Suppose he can't have. He doesn't have to. Maybe echad. Can he bring one time? Par. Par means singular, single works as well. The pasuk speaks about shisha kvasim, 6 sheep. What's the point of this pasuk? The answer is because you look in the Torah by Rosh Chodesh, it says Shiva, you bring 7, and the pasuk now is teaching. If you're down to 6, keep on going. Shiva, if you don't have 7, Yavi Shisha, can we bring 6? Shisha. Pasuk speaks about 6 as well. Continues the Gemara. What about 5, 4, or 3? Shisha. Suppose he doesn't have 6. Should he bring Yavi Chamisha? Should he bring 5? What if you can't find 5? Chamisha. Yavi, should he bring Arba even 4? Arba, Yavi Shloisha, what about 3? Shloisha, Yavi Shnaim, even 2? Afilu Echad, even 1? Tamaleimar. Pasuk there continues and says, look, bring as much as you could afford. Whatever you have, you bring. So once the pasuk goes down to even 1, so just stick with that. Why even mention 6, 5, or Shisha Kvasim Lama? Why speak about 6? The answer is because if you can get 6, bring 6. It's not all or nothing. It's not 7 or 1. Whatever you can do, you meant to do. It's a lesson for life. Whatever you can get, whatever you can find, you meant to do. Right? The Chofetz Chaim used to say, in the olden days, you work your way up, and in the ladder of spirituality, you go from one level to the next. He said, today, forget about being organized and predictable. He said, just grab the apples. It's like the woman who was selling apples in the market, and this vicious fellow knocked it over, and she's yelling and screaming, "Oh, what happened to my apples?" And a fellow comes over, he says, forget about what happened. Just grab. Go grab. You can find 5, 6, whatever you'll get, you'll salvage. Don't give up on it. So, whatever you can get, shisha kvasim, go for it. Now, suppose we have the full number, 2 parim and 7 kvasim. Can I just bring a couple? No. In this case, of course, you have to bring them all. Tamalema, you. Pasuk says you is to say, look, that's only if you don't have, but if you have, you are chayv to bring them all together. We have another pasuk in Yecheskel. Koyamar Hashem. L'kim. Barishim bechad hachodesh tikach par b'mbakar tam v'chitesas hamigdash. So on the Rosh Chodesh, you bring a par as a chatas v'chitesa. The question is, chatas? Is it then a chatas oilahi? If you look in the Psukim in the Torah, the par is an oilah, not a chatas. What's a chatas doing here? Oh, Rabbi Yechon, we're stopped. Parshazu, this discussion in the Psukim, we can't really explain it. Eliyahu Navi, when he comes, Asa L'Darsh will explain it for us. Rav Ashi Amar, no, let me give an answer. This is not the standard Musaf, of Rosh Chodesh. Actually, there's a special event that he's referring to, Miluim. This was the time of celebrating the inauguration of the Beis Hamikdash Hasheni, the time of Ezra HaSofer. Miluim Yikrivu B'Zmei Ezra. Kederach Sheikrivu B'Mei Moshe, just like they offered karbanis in the time of Miluim of Moshe and the Mishkan. And the first day, of course, was on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which they had where they had the karbanis of Rosh Chodesh plus the celebratory karbanis here as well. This carbon that's being brought on Rosh Chodesh is not the standard Rosh Chodesh carbon; it's the Miluim carbon, which was a chatas. We find the same explanation in the Brayser. B'da Omer, he says on this pasuk we're stumped. Parshazu Eliyahu Asa Darsha. Rabbi Yosi, let me explain to you what's going on. This is the Miluim Yikrivu Mei Ezra, which they offered by the time of Ezra. Kederach Sheikrivu Mei Moshe, just like in the time of Moshe. Maloi. So Rabbi Yehuda, upon hearing this clarification, says, "Great, I appreciate it. Tanuch daitcha, shinachta daiti. Your mind should be at rest because you did the same to me. You pleased me, and meaning I'm now satisfied with this pshat." We have another pasuk in Yecheskel. V'chol nevela u'treifa. This is really obscure. The nevela and treifa animals. Kahanim should refrain from eating non-kosher material. Only a kayan? What about a regular Yisrael? He's allowed to. Kahanim only a kayan shouldn't eat these. Yisrael could. We know that we're all forbidden to eat these non-kosher materials. Amar Yechanan. This is a real stumper. Parshazu, this pasuk, Eliyahu, Asa L'Darsha, will be explained by Eliyahu Navi. Until then, we have no pshat. Ravina Amar, no. Of course, everybody has the same rules. The point of Yecheskel was to highlight, to stress that the Kohanim is strictly, there's a point of mentioning the Kohanim. And to teach that they cannot eat these materials. Why would I think they could? Perhaps I would think. Since a kohen is allowed to eat from a bird which did not have a standard shchita procedure done to it, malika, flicking off the head from which technically is like an avela, like a dead animal for all practical purposes. So perhaps since they have that permissibility in karbanos, that gives them a green light in general as well. Tishtiri, nami, nevelo treif, perhaps they could eat any nevelo treif. Right? Perhaps birds only. But in any case, Kamash Malon comes Yechazkel and says no. Although there's an exception made for him regarding karbanos, but not otherwise. We have another pasuk in Yechazkel. V'chein ta'asa b'shiva b'chodesh me'ish shoge u'mipesi v'chibartam al habayis. Bring another chatas on the 7th to atone for some misunderstanding and mistake. Now, what's it going on? Shiva. What is Shiva? What's the number 7 here? Amar b'yechna ilu Shiva shvatim shachata. We're talking about 7 shvatim, 7 tribes, which erroneously did a transgression due to having received a psak, a ruling, an erroneous ruling by the Bezdin. So typically that would require a special carbon, as we learned back in Menachos Hariyas, right? Par helam dava shel tzibur. And the pasuk is teaching us that it not only applies to the general public at large, most of the Klal Yisrael, most of the population, even though they don't encompass most of the population, but since they encompass most of the shvatim in terms of numbers, 7 out of 12, they require a par helam dava shel tzibur. The pasuk mentions the word chodesh. It's not Rosh Chodesh, it's chodesh, to tell you in chitzu. V'amru chelav mutar. We're talking about the bezdin or machadesh. They originated some sort of erroneous ruling that you can eat chelav, which is typically asr with kares, and they mistakenly permitted a certain type of fat. And the pasuk continues, meish shoge u'mipesi. Malamed, we learn from here what happened. Shein chayavin. They will only bring the special carbon elahom davar. That's shoygib. There was some sort of mistake. The halacha was misunderstood and forgot. Imshigas masa, accompanied by an actual manifestation of that ruling. So there was a 2-part mistake. The ruling was mistakenly issued, and the actual ma'aser was done as well. Let us recall the great deeds of this great man, V'chananya ben Chizkiah, that was his name, Shmuel, if not for him, and for his efforts in clarifying the psukim of Yechezkel, to put them in line and consistent with the halachis of the Torah, as per our discussions, Nigna Sefer Yechezkel, they would have put away the Sefer and Shemus, they would have hid the Sefer. Why? Shahayu Dvarav Soisrin, because the words of Yechezkel, as per these examples just learned, appear to be contradicting accepted halachas of the Torah, that only a kohen can't eat the nevela, and etc. Ma'aseh, so what do you do to clarify things, to reconcile it? Hello shloshmi es garvi. He brought up 300 containers of shemen of oil to light up the night. He sat upstairs and he plugged and he learned and he toiled until he actually clarified and reconciled all the psukim with the halachas in the Torah, as we just discussed. Reb Shimon concludes the Mishnah with an interesting halacha. You have a choice. Many karbanos, but only part way, incomplete karbanos without the nesachim, or 1 par complete with the accompaniment. Which one do you do? Choice 2. How do we know? Tanarabah. Again, a pasuk in Yechezkel regarding the karbanos of Rosh Chodesh. It says, "Ve'efal par, ve'efal ayil, yasa mincha." You should make a mincha for the par. How much mincha? An ephah. It's a certain amount. How much for the ayil and ephah? And we all know that the par and the ayil have different amounts. Why is he equating them? Since when are the quantities regarding the mincha of the par and the ayil the same? Why is the pasuk comparing? Ella, the point of the pasuk is to tell you like this. Ephah means a certain amount. The pasuk is just telling you, look, Ella, shemoyel and parim merubim. Suppose you have ability to purchase many parim, but no nesachim. V'lo nesachim. Yavi par echad nesachim. You should bring one properly with the nesachim, rather than many incomplete. V'al yikra v'kulam b'lei nesachim. As Rashi explains, that's the lotion of the pasuk of eifel apar. Eifa means with the required amount. Midah haru'uyallah. So it's not about the specific measurement of an eifa. That's not the point of the pasuk. Is bring a par complete with its own accompaniment. Bring an ayah likewise. Have a choice to do that, or bring many partial, duly complete package. Again, with the same thing with the rams, if they have the ability to purchase many, but incomplete, so without their amount, they're nesachim. So rather than bringing many incomplete, bring one with its own requirements. Rather than many without their proper nesach. Okay, now let's shift to the Shtei Alechem. To Chag HaShavuos, which has the Shtei Alechem, which, as we said earlier, has a whole set of batch of karbonos that come along with it, which are discussed in Teres Kehanim and Vayikra. Right? We have the Shiva Kvasim, Par Echad, Elim Shnayim, plus, right? So the Shiva Kvasim are oiles. Plus, we have two more Kvasim, Shlamims, sheep, which are Shlamims. And these are discussed in Teres Kehanim and Vayikra, in addition to the karbonos musaf discussed in Parshas Pinchas and Sefer Bamidbar. Okay, so now let's say they only have the breads and not the accompanying karbonos. We're talking about the karbonos that come with the breads, the ones from Parshas Vayikra. Okay, two sets of karbonos. We're going to talk about the ones in Vayikra now. You have the breads and the karbonos that come along with them. You have breads without karbonos, or you have karbonos without breads. Are they considered one inseparable package? Says the Mishnah, par va'elam akvasim v'asar, that are meant to come together with the karbonos. Ein ma'akvanis alechem. You don't have them, you can still bring the lechem. V'lo lechem ma'akvan, and vice versa. You have the karbonos without the lechem, keep on going. Rabbi Kiva disagrees. He said the breads are the focal point. You have the breads, continue. You don't have the breads, you can't bring the karbonos. And he's talking about the two kvasim, two shlamims now, that, or actually, together with the breads, you do tenufa together, it's like one package. Okay, so in general, the karbonos are not meyak of the breads, and vice versa, but regarding the two kvasim that are linked to the breads, here we have a machlekes. Rabbi Kiva says the breads are critical, and Rav Shimon ben Nana says just the opposite. The two kvasim are the critical factor, not the breads. Halechem holds back the kvasim. Halechem makavas hakvasim, but ve'en hakvasim makavas halechem. The Rabbi Kiva, Rav Shimon ben Nana, just the opposite. Loiki, ella rather, hakvasim are makavas halechem. You don't have the kvasim, forget about the breads. But halechem ein makavas hakvasim. But the breads do not hold back the two kvasim. Why? Look in the midbar. They had the kvasim without the breads. Rashi explains, they couldn't have breads in the midbar. The breads are meant to come from produce grown in Eretz Yisrael. So you see, the sheep survive without the breads. We find out when Yisrael were traveling through the desert, 40 years straight, they offered the two kvasim without the breads. Afghan here as well, today. If you only have the kvasim, you can proceed. Okay, so generally, the karbonos and the breads are not sort of linked, but regarding the two kvasim that are coming with the breads as a tenufa, as one offering, Rabbi Kiva says the breads are critical, and Rav Shimon ben Anas goes the other way. He says the kvasim are the critical aspect, not the breads. Rav Shimon, we adopt Ben Anas's general view that the kvasim are the critical aspect, not over the breads, but for a different reason. Aval ein hatam kedvarav. But the truth is, in terms of the historical perspective that he presented, that in the midbar they only had the kvasim and not the breads. He says that's not linked to this discussion, because in reality, you should know that in the midbar they skipped many karbonos. In fact, they didn't have any of those karbonis which are meant to accompany the breads. Those that are discussed in Sefer Vayikra were not done in the Midbar at all. That's the way it was. He says, Shakol, all the karbonis in Midbar, the Musaf karbonis, Midbar. You do that in the Midbar too. But all the ones in Vayikra, were not active in the Midbar. Ain't Karba Midbar, which will be discussed in the Gemara. Okay, so historically, he says, none of the Vayikra karbonis were brought in the Midbar. So that's not really related to our discussion. But in terms of the fact, I agree, in terms of the halacha, I agree, that nowadays, now that we have everything available, we're in Eretz Yisrael, right? He says that really you should bring everything. But if you don't have, you can still bring the kvasim without the breads, but not vice versa. Once they arrived in Eretz Yisrael, they would bring both sets of karbonis, Vayikra and Bamidbar. Okay, so now back to the question. So, why do I say this is Reb Shimon, right? Halachically, I agree with Reb Shimon ben Anas that in terms of the kvasim and the lechem, the kvasim are the critical, element over the lechem. But not for the same reason as Reb Shimon ben Anas had mentioned. He said because in the Midbar they brought the sheep without the breads. I disagree. They didn't bring the sheep at all because that's Parshas Vayikra. So back to the question. If so, so why do I agree? Why do I say that in terms of the two kvasim and the lechem, we say yikru kvasim or lechem, you can bring the kvasim without the lechem? What's the reason for that? The answer is, it's a svara. Look, kvasim matiras atzman. V'lo lechem. V'lo kvasim she'en li yatirenu. In terms of the kvasim and the lechem, who's the matir? What's the permitter? What's the activator of the process? It's the kvasim. The shechita of the kvasim are matir themselves, and if there are breads, they're matir the breads, and now you can continue processing them and eating them. So the kvasim can accommodate themselves, even without the lechem. You can't bring the breads without the kvasim. Who's going to give them the green light for consumption? They're going to be stuck, so there's no point. You can't process them without the kvasim. So it's the shechita, etc., of the kvasim, which gets the process going. So you can have the kvasim without the lech, but not vice versa. Okay, so just quickly summarize the Mishnah before we continue. There are karbonos in Bamidbar, Musafin. There are karbonos in Vayikra, on account of the breads. Par, Elam, Kvasim, Sa'ir. You have 7 Kvasim Oila, 2 Kvasim Shlomim that are actually waved Tenufa with the breads themselves. In general, the karbonos are not ma'akev each other, as we discussed earlier. What about the bread karbonos and the breads? Are they ma'akev each other? So Rabbi Akiva says, well, the lechem is the important point between the lechem and the kvasim. You have to have the lechem, even without the kvasim. We're talking about 2 kvasim of the shlomim. Rav Shimon ben Anas goes the other way, and Rav Shimon agreed as well. The kvasim can work without the lechem, but not vice versa. Says the Gemara. He crafted al lechem. So we're talking in Parshas in Sefer Vayikra, giving us a rundown, a list of all the karbonos, which are al halechem, meant for the to accompany the chayva al lechem, to accompany the bread. So at this point, it sounds like if you have no bread, you can't bring the shiva kvasim. And vice versa, right? But then the pasuk continues, Shivas kvasim tmimim, bring 7 kvasim. So if the pasuk would say v'kraftem, Shivas kvasim al halechem, clearly the kvasim are tied with the lechem. It doesn't say that. It says v'kraftem al lechem. Then it says Shivas kvasim tmim, which almost sounds like the kvasim can work separate, independent of the bread. And that's how we learn. If you don't have any breads, you can still bring the 7. Okay, so that's pretty clear. So why does the pasuk link them with the breads? I tell you, we learn they didn't bring any sheep. Before, they were obligated to bring the breads, which means to say in the midbar, they did not bring all these karbanos discussed over here. So the 7 kvasim were not brought in the midbar. They're Rebbe Rebbe Kiva Aimer, and some actually say it's Rebbe Tarfon who's still speaking. Yachel, perhaps I would say, those 7 kvasim are the same ones as in Sefer Bamidbar. It's all the same 7. Heinin kvasim amurim kan, the 7 that are mentioned here in Vayikra, the same ones of the kvasim amurim in Bamidbar. Right? They sound very similar. 7 kvasim on Shavuos, perhaps it's the same 7. Amras, you can't say that. Why? Because take a look. Look at the number of parim ve'elim that are cited in these 2 places, in Vayikra and Bamidbar. It's a parim ve'elim. Look at the other karbanos. Ein and Hani, clearly they're not the same. Different numbers. Right? We discussed this before. In Vayikra you have 1 par with 2 elim, and Bamidbar it goes the other way. 2 parim and 1 ayil. Elo. So clearly there are 2 sets of karbanos with different, purposes, so to speak. Elo alolo ba'in b'glal atzman. The ones in Bamidbar are musafin, independent karbanos, without the breads. V'alolo, as opposed to the ones in Vayikra, they're packaged with the breads. Ba'im b'glal lechem, they come on account of the bread. Nimtza, so it turns out, masha'amam chumashab kudim kar Bamidbar. Once we have this clarity, this distinction, the ones in Bamidbar which are the musafin, you'll bring them even in the midbar, even without breads. They're not linked to the breads. But the ones in Teres Kahanim and Vayikra, which are linked to the bread, no bread, no karbanos. They didn't bring them in the midbar. So because they didn't bring breads in the midbar, they didn't bring the karbanos either. The karbanos of Parshas Vayikra, which are linked to the breads. Okay, this fits very well with the ending of the Mishnah, right? That all the karbanos in Teres Kahanim, which are bread related, were not active in the midbar. But as we said, once they got into Eretz Yisrael, they're meant to bring everything. But even there, if you don't have the breads, what do we do? So that was the discussion we had in the Mishnah. Some say you can still bring everything, some say you can't. Okay. Says the Gemara, okay, you've pointed out that the parim ve'elim are different numbers, different sets, different types of karbanos. Okay, so they're certainly separate. These are musafin, these are bread related. But in terms of the kvasim, which are the exact identical number in both 7, hakvasim inuninus, perhaps they're the same set of 7. Who says you have to bring 2 sets of 7? Once we find the discrepancy in the numbers regarding the parim ve'elim, we assume that the kvasim are also different sets of kvasim. These 7 are musafin together with the parim ve'elim of musafin, and those are bread related together with the an item of the bread. Says the Gemara, who says that the parim ve'elim are different ones either? I understand here it says 1 and 2, there it says 2 and 1. Perhaps the Torah is just giving us choices. Who says the different sets of parim ve'elim? Dilma, perhaps. Pasuk means like this. You have a choice. If you want par or shnei elim the card, you could bring 1 par and 2 elim, or the opposite. If you want shnei par and vayilach, you could bring 2 and 1. Says the Gemara, no. There are clearly 2 separate types of karbanos. Shtani sidran. Shmama nachrinin. Look at the seder, the sequence, the way the Torah presents them. In Vayikra we have first the kvasim, and then the par, and then the elim. In Midbar it's the parim, elim, and kvasim. Parim, ayil, and kvasim. So if we see that the order is different, it's a different package, different type of arrangement. Okay. So So again, in the Midbar, there were no breads, because the breads had to come from Eretz Yisrael, and there were no accompanying karbanos as well, but the Musafim were certainly active. Now, once they're in Eretz Yisrael, everything's active. Okay? So now, you meant to do tenufa, the breads, together with 2 kvasim, the shlamims. What if you don't have both elements? You don't have the breads and the animal. What do you do? So that was machlokes we had in the Mishnah. Halechem makav es hakvasim. The bread is the focal point. My time at the Rakiva, that's the Rakiva Shita. Why? Because when it comes to the discussion of these two kvasim, the shlamims that are packaged together with the breads and the tenufa experience, the pasuk uses the word yihu lakayin. Yihu lashem lakayin. Yihu is an absolute term. Gomar yihu mitiyana. We learn a gzera shava connection, yihu, which is discussed here. And we connect it to tiyena, which is discussed by the 2 breads. Lashon tiyena is mentioned there. And we say like this: Malahalon lechem, just like the term tiyena refers to the 2 breads. Afkan lechem, likewise, the word yiyu in our pasuk is also referring to the breads. So again, we have a pasuk which describes the tenufa, they wave, right, the breads with the kvasim, concluding with the term yiyu lashem lakoyin. Yiyu means absolute. Now, what's absolute in this package? Is it the breads or is it the sheep? We connect it to the word tiyena discussed back earlier, which are the breads. Yiyu and tiyena are similar, expressions. So the absoluteness refers to the breads. That's why, according to Rakiva, lechem is me'akiv. However, Menachos, he's the one who says that the kvasim are critical. He gets a different gzera shava. Gomar yiyu. He connects the word yiyu over here with the Torah is talking about regarding the tenufa of the breads and the kvasim, but he connects it to a different yiyu, which discusses the sheep. Yiyu by the sheep. Malahal and kvasim, afkan kvasim, just like the yiyu over there is the sheep, here as well. So we learn that the kvasim are me'akiv the lechem. Ubenanas nami neilef mitiyena. Why doesn't Menachos take a Rakiva's approach? Connect yiyu to tiyena, which refers to the breads, and learn that the breads are critical. Malahal and lechem, afkan lechem, just like tiyena is the breads, here as well yiyu are the breads. He says yiyu to yiyu is a more direct connection, the same exact word. That's preferred over going to tiyena, which is a slightly different word. Done, we connect you, me, you. We learn you from you. Very done, we can't learn you, me, from tiyena, which is different. Well, says the Gemara, that's never an issue. As long as the meaning is the same, the spelling is not an issue. Might have committed a difference. Still make a proper gzera shava. We learn elsewhere. Tanzei b'shmoel, b'shava koyin, and by a koyin. We have the house that has a nega. It says b'shava koyin. You return. The boy came. Even though the word is different, but the meaning is the same. You return to the house. We can connect the 2 things. Zeo shiva, zeo bia, coming, returning. It's all the same thing. Allows for gzera shava. Why not the same here? Well, that's when you have no choice. That's when you don't have a more similar word. Over here you have a choice. Just connect you to you. With the damid le'afina, of course, you meant to take the more similar and matching word. No, Rabbi Kiva namen le'lev. You me you. So why doesn't Rabbi Kiva connect you to you? That's a reference to the sheep. It's more direct, same word. The answer is like this. The reason why he prefers connecting to tiyena, despite the difference in spelling, done in davar shematana l'koyin, midavar shematana l'koyin. He says, I'd rather make a connection, a hekesh, a comparison between something which is given to a kohen as a gift to something else which has the same procedure, given to the kohen as a gift. So here we have the pasuk which speaks about the kvasim and the breads, and the word yiyu is mentioned. And the other tiyena is talking about the breads, and the breads are something which is given to the kohen. And likewise over here, the 2 kvasim which are shlamims and the breads, both given to a kohen, right? So we connect the word you in our pasuk, which speaks about something given to a kohen, similar to the yiyu, similar to the tiena, which is also a gift to the kohen, the breads. So it's more likely that's a proper connection. As opposed to connecting it to a yiyu, which speaks about the kvasim, which are oilos. The oilos nina, they're given as an oila on the mizbeach. That's not given to a kohen. So our connection is a more similar, matching connection. Again, we have the word yiyu over here in this pasuk, which discusses the two kvasim, which are shlomim, and the breads. It says yiyu, something is absolute. Which one of these two? The kvasim or the bread? So we're not sure. So we go to a different pasuk which has a similar word, tiyena, which speaks about the breads, and we say, great connection. Breads. And they're very similar because they're both given to a kohen, as opposed to choosing yiyu, which is a different pasuk by an oila, which is dissimilar to the subject matter of our pasuk, which are given to a kohen as a gift. They're both the same. We have an alternate perspective on their sources. They're machlekes. Which machlekes? Rekiva and bananas, in terms of what's critical. The breads or the two kvasim are really based on how to learn the actual pasuk here. Again, it's the pasuk which discusses the act of tenufa, which binds together the two sheep, the shlomim with the breads, and concludes with kodesh yu l'Hashem lakoyin. Okay, that's the words. Rekiva says, well, learn it like this. The you, the absoluteness, refers to something which is given completely to a kohen. Those are only the breads, and not the two sheep which are shlomims, where part of them go on the mizbeach, the fats go on the mizbeach. It's partially on the mizbeach. It's not completely to the kohen. Okay, so that's why he concludes that you is going on the breads, and they're critical. Bananas takes a different approach to this pasuk. Miksiv kodesh yu lakoyin. The pasuk would say kodesh yu lakoyin. You're right. The breads which are given to the kohen only. It doesn't say that. Kodesh yu l'Hashem lakoyin ksiv. We have the word l'Hashem in there. Partially to a kohen. Which item is partially to the mizbeach and partially to the kohen? That's the shlamim. Fats on the mizbeach and the meat to the kohen. Those are the two kvasim. Two sheep, the shlamims. And you is going on them. They're critical. For Rabbi Akiva, he responds, Miksiv kodesh yu l'Hashem v'lakoyin. Does the pasuk say, if it would be like you, it would say, kodesh yu l'Hashem v'lakoyin. Part to Hashem, part to the kohen. It doesn't say it like that. L'Hashem lakoyin ksiv. So l'Hashem lakoyin. Which means that it's given to the kohen by way of Hashem, but it's all to the kohen. That's the destination. Because Rav Huna tells us regarding something else, the Rav Huna, konei Hashem sort of acquires it, receives it from us, but transfers it directly to the kohen completely. That's the breads. That ultimately ends up completely in the hands of the kohen. And you, the absoluteness, goes on that. Hence, the breads are me'akev and not the kvasim. Okay. So bottom line is, in the Midbar, they only brought the musafin, which I discussed in Sefer Midbar, but not the Teres Kehanim, the Ve'ikra Karbanits, which are part of the bread offering procedure. Now, specifically regarding the two kvasim, the shlomims that are bound together with the breads and the tufa, it's like one package, one carbon. Let's say you only have one element, not the other. Akiva says the lechem ami'akev, Banana says the kvasim ami'akev. We have several ways of explaining it. Now, back to the beginning of the sugya, Gemara concluded that the Mishnah, which speaks about the kvasim, elim, and param not being mi'akev each other, is a reference to Rosh Chodesh and or Shavuos, as we discussed. We had several difficult passages in Sefer Yecheskel, which were ultimately explained by this great man, Chanina ben Chizkiah, put great effort into elaborating and clarifying the halachos and putting them in line with the accepted halachos in the Torah. Rav Shimon had a chiddush that if you have a choice, many incomplete karbanos and versus one complete is the way to go. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha.